Moonletter, astrological podcast.
Pholus and the Land of Cults by Ben Belinsky. The story of the Pilgrim Fathers and their journey across the Atlantic in the Mayflower is part of the myth of nationhood of the United States. The Pilgrim Fathers were religious dissenters in days when the Church of England was the national church, and it was illegal not to attend church on a Sunday, subject to the fine of 1 shilling, the equivalent of around $25, for each service missed, and larger fines and imprisonment for actually conducting alternative services. They decided to leave England for the Netherlands in around 1607, and after failing to adapt to life there, they sailed for America in 1620 in the Mayflower. Thanksgiving celebrates their first harvest in 1621. The narrative of this myth underpins much of the national identity of the United States, started by a cult of dissenters who risked everything for freedom of worship. The concept of freedom is fundamental to the American experiment. Freedom from the arbitrary rule of kings, freedom from unfair taxes, freedom from state control, freedom to carry guns, freedom of speech, etc. These are all explicit and celebrated. But implicit in the culture is the membership of cults. America was born of a cult, and 250 years after its inception, it is still astonishingly fertile ground for the growth of cults, having produced more than any other society. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, also known as the Mormons, Scientology, the People's Temple, founded by Jim Jones, which finished with the deaths of 900 followers in Jonestown, Guyana in 1978, Heaven's Gate, founded by Marshall Applewhite, whose cult led to a mass suicide in 1997, the Branch Davidians, led by David Koresh, who played a central role in the Waco siege of 1993, and more recently, the MAGA cult of Donald Trump. In the chart of the United States, Pholus, the centaur associated with intoxication and cults, is conjunct the moon's south node. The moon's south node represents karmic legacy. It's what we come into the world with. And for a nation, it represents their collective karma. But karma is not immutable. For the individual, the life's journey can be described as the journey from the moon's south node to the moon's north node, the north being the place where we grow and move on, where we become our true selves. And while we may never abandon the legacy of the south node, it is always available to us as a place to recharge. To stay there means that nothing fundamentally changes. The spiritual journey of the United States is from the south node in the second house to the north node in the 8th house. This involves leaving the acquisitiveness and materialism of the second house and travelling to the higher values of the 8th. Add to this the influence of Pholus, and it means that the cult leaders, including the leaders of the evangelical megachurches, might wish to abandon their desires for yet another private jet. And any politician who plugs into the intoxicating energy and adulation of cult worship will find it almost impossible to go cold turkey. As in the case of Donald J. Trump, 45th and 47th President of the United States. The midpoint of Venus and Saturn is a dark and loveless place, a place where relationships are treated as transactional and sex is a power game, a place where any brief satisfaction is vulnerable to the blight of jealousy. These planets are conjunct in Trump's chart, Saturn inhibiting Venus's ability to love and the ability to receive love. But not everyone with this aspect is emotionally dysfunctional. We are not our birth charts, and it is possible to grow beyond any apparent limitations. Venus-Saturn conjunctions can be transformed into universal love, informed by a powerful sense of duty and steadfast loyalty. But in Trump's case, loyalty is something he demands but does not give, and the love he supposedly gives to his family — his Venus-Saturn conjunction is in Cancer, associated with family — is flatly conditional. In Trump's chart, the exact opposition from Pholus to the midpoint of Venus and Saturn, exact by 2 minutes of arc, is the only thing that replaces the simple human need for love and affection. The viewing figures from his TV appearances, the size of the crowd at his inauguration, the adulation he gets from his rallies, the number of followers on X or Truth Social, the number of times his face appears in the press and online, the number of votes he gets — this is oxygen to him, but it is also a need that can never be satisfied. This is an extract from the book Pholus, Cults, Intoxication and the Divine by Ben Belinsky, where we explore the myth and astrological influence of the centaur asteroid Pholus in the lives of abusers, cult leaders, cult victims and cult busters. This book is available as an e-book from Amazon.
And for more astrological and spiritual musings, check out moonletter.co.uk.